Good afternoon, late afternoon on a beautiful Friday. It's starting to finally warm up again, and we're so happy for everyone to join us on another bite-sized branding live show. As always, I have the amazing Grant joining us to unbundle a bunch of subjects, and the fabulous Darren Roberts, who I had an amazing conversation with not too long ago and have continued to have conversations with. And that really just motivated me to say, mate, I'd love to have you on the show. I think sales, marketing, branding all go so hand in hand in the industry and in the market. And quite often they are treated as such disparate and separate pieces to the puzzle. So I love bringing on that sales influence into these conversations, getting that mix of brand, marketing, and sales and bringing it all together. So I thought it would be really poignant to have him on the show. So we're very grateful to have him on here. We'll get Darren to do a little intro in a minute, but I'm going to throw it to Grant. Grant, can you give us a little bit of context around the show?
Fantastic. Well, welcome everyone. And once again, Bite Size Branding is back at it with the view of bringing another guest. My name is Thom. I'm known as the head fire starter of the industry. And what I like doing is taking our business ideas, helping them launch, helping them grow, and helping them eventually become effective and become value to their customers, their profile, to their community, and of course, their country. What I like to do is very much on the basis of bite-sized branding is that we normally talk a subject, 5 minutes or less, and we basically sit and interject with our content, our knowledge, our experiences with a view to add value to a question that's asked. Now that we've got a guest, we extended by an extra 2 minutes, so we're on 7 minutes. There we are, there's the clock. And what we've got is basically an expert in the room, Darren Roberts, who's going to talk to us today, and therefore we are going to ask him questions and challenge him on his subject matter with our experiences. And therefore we'd like you to like, share, or comment on our conversation, because naturally we would like to be challenged on subject matter. So there we go, Darren, and welcome, Darren.
There you go, Bernard. Welcome. That's how you know it's late on a Friday.
Everybody.
And you also know this show is completely live and unedited because I've been waiting all day for that mail to arrive, and it arrives right now, just after we start the show. Of course it would.
You guys have kicked off Friday drinks already, have you? Is that what's happening?
Man,
no, straight after the show. Straight after the show.
This bottle is full of vodka, not water. Darren, I'd love for you to give us a little introduction, give us a little bit of your background, and then we'll jump into the show.
Yeah, thank you, Bernard and Grant. Thanks for being on Bite Size Branding. My background is after school, I went to uni and I did a sports science degree and came out of that, working in the fitness industry, but very quickly fell in love with the sales and the leadership and the operations part of the industry. So since then, over 25 years, been leading sales teams and businesses and owners to really look at that sales leadership communication to increase their conversion, but to do it in a manner that is respectful to the client and is appreciated. So I'm actually a student of Impact Training and the National Sales Academy. I was trained by them in 2002 when I was directly selling, and have used all of their best practices myself and with my teams. So then almost 9 years ago, was invited to come and be part of the team. For the last 9 years, been training and consulting and speaking at events for Impact Training.
Really?
Oh, that's a really cool pathway. Yeah. And there's some actually cool kind of topics in there that kind of resonate with what we're going to be talking about today. Just for the viewers, where are you based again?
I'm in Adelaide, South Australia.
Yes, we're spreading around Australia.
Yeah, we are spreading it around.
That's it. So we got Adelaide, Melbourne, and Sydney in the house.
And are you in lockdown, Darren?
Listen, I'm not actually. We were in lockdown a week ago, but we were one of the fortunate ones. So I almost feel guilty about not being in lockdown, but no, we're doing okay here so far.
But Darren's going for drinks after the show. We'll be staying behind.
Yeah.
I'll record it for you.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Live stream it.
There we go.
Awesome, man. Are we ready to jump into the first question?
Yeah, well, basically, we want to get unbundling in the sense of the first question is to, with COVID being such a part of our lives at this point in time in Australia especially, what is the effect that you've noticed, that you've seen, where people are presently sitting at with the view of the effect of COVID to that of their sales performance? I think is the first question. I'd love to just get your insights and understanding is, first of all, how they're feeling, what should they be doing, and how best should we be handling a COVID process and getting more sales within the door and making the business relevant. So, Bernard, let's hit the clock.
I'm so prepared. Look at me.
Look at you. Let's go.
And
okay. So
yeah, it is. It's interesting because I think in business previously, businesses have either been a face-to-face business or an online business. And I think a lot of the face-to-face businesses previously have been scared to become or have an online part of their business because they're scared people are going to not buy from them in person and they'll leave their business. So when COVID first kicked in, we saw some people just react really quickly. And, even a bricks and mortar type business bring in an online servicing. And some others just sat back and go, this won't last long. We'll be back in business shortly. And of course, a year and a half later, it's still going. So what we found for those that we helped bring in an online space in lots of different industries, then it allowed them to keep having a revenue source. Yep. It allowed them to keep in contact with their clientele and keep servicing them. And then when they reopened, that means that the re-engagement rate was really high. But it also meant that because they'd already set up this online space during the lockdown, that they kept that going. So even when their bricks and mortar businesses were back, they still had the online presence where they're able to sell, they're able to provide their products and services, which meant a lot of them that could expand their clientele. So they might have a bricks and mortar business in a suburb, and previously their clientele or their avatar was in a 5K radius. Now they've got the world at their opportunity because they have this online presence. So there's many of those that have kept that going, and in many cases that's kept them afloat because they can keep getting an income during that period. And there's a smaller percentage that just haven't made that move, and they're the ones that are really struggling. They're the ones that may not come out of it. But we found that the ones that moved fast, both from a sales perspective online and a servicing and product perspective, were really able to be quite surprised that it was fast. And secondly, that they were thinking, why didn't I do this 5 years ago?
So let me ask you another one in the sense of where business owners are sitting with sales team that their morale is a little bit down. What are the kind of things that they should be pulling on resources with the view to keep the team together and motivated? What suggestions would you make?
The leader has to legitimately care and show that they care. So not every contact or phone call is how many sales you made today, how are we looking for target. There's got to be a legitimate, how are you? Is everything okay? How's the family? I know your wife lost some hours. Is she okay? What can I do to help you?
Yeah.
So that approach is important now, and it's going to be remembered long term because change creates change, and that means a lot of employees are open to a change, looking for new roles. So those owners and business people that have staff show that absolute care factor is important. And then secondly to that, to be able to teach them new skills. So to teach their salespeople new skills. One of the biggest skills, and we'll come to it in a bit more detail later, is selling over Zoom and selling over the phone a little bit, and also phone to getting on Zoom or other types of presenting. And there's a different skill set to that than there is to selling face-to-face. So for the owners to, show that care and care for their team, but to teach them in new skills or have someone else teach them in new skills where they can still be converting and hitting targets and creating commissions if they're on that sort of structure while they're not face-to-face or in their traditional selling environment.
And when it comes to businesses and sales teams from a lead generation point of view, especially now that everyone is locked away out of sight, what is a suggestion for generating those leads? Because I think your tip of going back and do more training is a valuable tip and advice. What would you suggest when it comes to lead generation in times when people are away?
Yeah, it's collaboration.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously social media and stuff we can still do, and all the online marketing we can still do, but there's a massive positive impact by collaboration. So understanding that there's other businesses out there that are also screaming for leads, also screaming for help.
Yeah.
And of course, the greatest collaboration is think, who is my end client? And who else does my end client buy from that isn't in competition with my business? And then to reach out, have that conversation. And the collaboration does not start with, hey, listen, we're looking for more leads. We'd love to talk to you how we can collaborate. The collaboration is just like the business owner reaching out to their team, is to go, hey, listen, we've got X amount of clients. They all buy your product, but at the moment they buy it from wherever they like. If I could direct them specifically to you, would you be open to a conversation? So it's getting the other person excited first, and then that allows that conversation. But that is often a contra, i.e. no cash transaction. Just a win-win situation for two businesses and business owners that have a fit. And that collaboration means regular cross-promoting, regular, reaching out to both networks rather than just your own network that already knows what you do. So now I think more than ever, that's a great opportunity.
I think that's like, it hit the nail on the head. What we've been talking to a lot of our clients about, and what we've found to kind of last us through this second round of lockdowns, is exactly that. Like our relationship with other agencies and our relationship with other suppliers, our suppliers in general. Also checking in on old clients, like just seeing where everyone's at, making sure everyone's okay. That's what's kind of started conversations again and started that trade, that exchange, where you're able to pass things back and forth. I did like the fact that you said content as well, which I don't think most anybody does. And I would say even we've struggled to do it ourselves, is to get supporting content from another client and say, hey man, I'll share that for you. I'll pass that around. You put this on here and we'll do that. I don't know why that feels so less common.
Because everyone's hearing, we got to keep touch points with our customers and our clientele, but they're running out of things to touch point them without. So, utilizing those people we're collaborating with, utilizing, their videos or their content to cross promote takes a bit of pressure off the business owner to go, I got to keep creating my own stuff.
Adds a little color too, so it's not always the same thing.
Correct. Very much so.
Wow.
Right.
Mate, that was the best. That was like the most poignant end, like penny drop, done, end of timer. With 3 seconds to spare, we didn't even interrupt the alarm at all. Usually we're trying to talk over it and talk around it. We're like, but we want to, but that was great actually. And because of that and the way that the subject matter went, I'm actually going to flip the next question to the last question. I'm going to talk about the next one before that. Grant, was there anything you wanted to wrap up before?
I think there were a good couple of points that came out of that discussion. I definitely thought the word of collaboration plays a huge role in the sense of how we need to pivot, in the sense of still staying viable. I think that whole opportunity of selling over Zoom, where you have to change your mantra as to how you would sell, I think is fantastic. And I think it's a case of maintaining those relationships with alternative people with the view to create complementation to your business are three of the most important things I got out of the last 7 minutes. So I think that was excellent from my point of view.
What a good little distilling of information. And actually, that middle point was kind of the thing that made me go, you know what, I'm going to switch the questions around. And the reason is that the next question is all about future trends and how do we kind of leverage the digital sales space. And I did inverted commas, but no one could see them out here. I need to do them like in here. And it kind of looks like I'm grabbing my face.
Weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't work so much.
The little ones.
Yeah, tiny little. And the reason I wanted to move it over is because I think that's a big conversation piece. And what I really wanted to kind of dig deeper on is how do you build rapport and relationships when it's the first interaction or it's a cold interaction in either a digital conversation or a digital call. What do you, or what have you guys found through your training and maybe through the network that you have around you? What are the kind of questions that are coming out around that, and what are you finding people are what is the response? What's the reaction to it? I hope that made sense. It's a long ass question. Ready to go?
Let's hit the clock.
Let's see if I can just do this. There we go.
Right, there we go. So
I think, and one of the benefits of collaboration and for people to be open that you're looking for collaboration is it makes it easier to do what you were just saying, Bernard, is to build that rapport and mutual commonality, and people like themselves and all those sorts of things early on, because you're often introduced by a third party. So if Bernard, you introduced me to Grant because you knew that I was interested in collaboration, well, out of the blue, you could introduce the two of us for a start.
Yeah.
And then the mutual commonality is easy. Or I could just contact Grant and say, hey, listen, I'm reaching out to you because Bernard knows us both and love to have a chat. And of course, the first thing we talk about is, how long have you known Bernard? How did you know Bernard? Oh, a conversation. Oh, yeah, I met him at this. And suddenly the rapport is instant because we have that third party person to talk about. So that's another benefit to collaboration, is that it makes it easy to connect. The other is professional stalking, as one of my colleagues, Cheryl, would say, on social media.
Brilliant.
So you've got to be careful with it, of course. But, if we can look at LinkedIn profiles, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, then we can get a bit of a feel of how someone communicates. We can get a bit of a feel of what they're interested in, what sporting groups they're in. Are they in lockdown? Are they not in lockdown? What are we going to talk about straight away? But for us, we combine the structural skills of a sales and leadership best practice with the softer skills of behavioral styles and body language and NLP and effective communication. So as part of that quick rapport is also about communicating in a manner that person likes to take on information. How fast do I speak? How slow do I speak? How much tonality do I use? How many hand gestures do I use? Do I smile a lot? Do I not smile a lot? And if I meet you for the first time, I've got to have a conversation with you to work that out.
Yeah.
But if I can see a couple of videos for you or watch a couple of video podcasts from you in the past, I can go, okay, this is how he communicates. So when I show up, even if it's in the first 2 to 3 minutes, then I can build that a bit of rapport, because subconsciously you go, this person is similar to me. They communicate subconscious, not conscious, versus making the mistake of going, hi, how you going? It's a great day. Oh my goodness, I've been out all day. I've been in the sunshine all day. I've been meeting with friends. And you go, oh, by the way, I'm in lockdown. And I go, whoops, maybe I've made you feel bad. You know what I mean? Versus doing a little bit of research, professional stalking, to go, what's the situation and how do I connect with this person pretty quickly, even if I have no idea who they are. That takes the cold calling side of things, the yucky side of things, away from it.
Do you think what has happened has created new ways of connecting, or has it just accelerated certain channels use in connecting from that sales perspective? Do you think the cold call is now obsolete, or do you think mail outs are obsolete, or email is obsolete because
there's different responses. We know that 3% of emails are opened or something like that. So they all have a relevance, but they're touch points. They're front of mind. They're keeping that person go that when I want to buy something, oh yeah, that's right, I got an email from that person, I'll give them a call. But the conversations is the key. So even through social media, just starting conversations, not trying to sell them anything. The simplicity of doing a post or a video or whatever and going back to it 2 or 3 days later and see who likes, commented, or shares the post. Yeah. And just starting a conversation with them. Hey, I noticed you liked my post a couple of days ago. Thanks for that. How are things with you? That's it. If they reply back, we'll have a conversation. If that conversation leads into, I'm a business owner, I'm struggling, I need your help, well, so be it. If it doesn't, we've had a conversation with someone. It might have been just what they needed at that point to reduce some loneliness. So those conversations are more important. If that's backed with an email or a text or something, then great. But those conversations are vital. And then if that leads to a telephone call, it's not a cold call anymore because we've had a virtual conversation.
Yeah. One of the things I think is important with these collaborations and conversations is the view to educate with the view to bring value in short spaces, because I think it's about having that relationship and having a soft touch point, but at the same time, having enough time to educate the value that you bring with the view that people can see interest and opportunity, and therefore that relationship starts to.
Yeah, and I guess if you already started the digital conversation, they'll already have an idea of the value You know, so now it's you can almost put that to the side to start the conversation first and then reinforce that rapport, and then everything else is more of a natural, you know, a more fluid piece of that conversation.
It almost earns the right to do it, doesn't it? And you know, your question was about future trends, and those trends now and into the future is to be seen as an expert. So because now everyone can market for free if they choose to, you must be seen as an expert. And we teach that to be seen as an expert, you got to teach someone something they don't know. If you can teach someone something they don't know that is relevant to them, of course, you'll be seen as an expert. We call it an ink spot, INK. It stands for I never knew that. And it's quite early on in the conversation. In fact, as soon as you know what they want to achieve, you've got to teach them something they don't know. That'll position you as an expert. Everyone's heard of USPs, but if we connect that with a USP, and not a true USP, not with the friendliest, we've got the best staff, a true USP, like we're the only ones to have this, with longer serving in this industry. We've got the newest X, Y, and Z. So if you can match a teaching with a USP, then people will stop shopping around, and you'll have that market share.
I think it is about listening as well. I think you've got to listen. It's not about selling and talking too much. Sometimes it's about asking the right questions and listening, because I think in that there's a lot of opportunity as well.
Absolutely. We use the doctor's philosophy: diagnose a problem before prescribing a solution. We've got to ask lots of questions. We've got to listen to those answers, and then when we have a compelling reason, have we earned the right to talk about our product and services, and then we connect them back to that compelling reason.
Collaborative clocks.
You two are connected.
We've got to make impact here. We've got to make impact.
Well, product placement. I think there's definitely a piece in there that people are desperate to really connect right now, and a lot of businesses, almost to their own detriment, go for the quick sale, or aim for the quick sale and go for numbers rather than the rapport and building that connection with somebody. And it works if you're trying to sell matches over Instagram. Like, you don't really have to build a lot of rapport to sell matches. Either somebody's interested or they're not interested in the impulse of buying that product. But when it comes to like service-based or what we call high considered products, so like we would even say like a Mercedes is not a commodity, right? So it's something that people highly consider. Like, why am I buying it? It's an expensive purchase, etc., etc. And they need to validate the purchase, and they need to rationalize the purchase, you know. So when it comes to those higher value or those considered purchases, I feel a lot of brands historically have not built much of a rapport with their customers. And you know, we've had this conversation recently with people where it's like they have this huge database of people which they've never even checked in on, you know, 12,000 people or whatever. And I'm like, whoa, you have 12,000 potential customers that already know your name, that have already shopped with you, and you don't talk to them at all? I'm like, I would love to have 12,000 customers that I could just like tap into and be like, hey man, how's things? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think do not fall out of that loop. So the two things that I picked up out of this discussion was definitely that I didn't realize that professional stalking was the new word, but I'm definitely going to take that up as my new career.
I love that. It was great.
Absolutely. And the other one was ink spots. You know, I never knew that. I think that's also a fantastic acronym. So once again, I definitely think that utilizing ink spot and doing a little bit of professional stalking is the way of it.
Keep it professional.
We're gonna know what. Oh wait, I always point that way, but he's over there. We know exactly what Grant's going to be doing after this show.
After the weekend and lockdown,
his partner's going to come. What are you doing? He's like, I'm being a professional.
Yeah,
at stalking.
I can do it.
It's professional though. Okay.
Professional. It's a career move.
Yeah. Yeah, if you throw professional in there, it makes it all okay, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Then we'll finish up with the last question, and it's kind of to bring back that relevance, and really tie in the whole idea around branding and that marketing piece, and that feeling that often in industry, sales is treated as one part, and marketing is another part, and then often they even then have a brand manager, and the brand manager then has to liaise with the marketing person to like make sure that they're in sync, and then nobody's really talking to the salesperson who's just saying, well, I just need this, that's what I really need. And there's that fracture in the process, and often it then transpires into then how they appear in market, how they talk and communicate and connect in market. And the real question is around with that kind of void in the sales process and the connection to that marketing process. Have you seen or do you have some knowledge or experience around what the impact is to the reputation of a brand through those kind of like voids within the sales process or the communication to sales process? Again, my questions are all very long-winded today, aren't they? I'm going to
very long.
There you go.
Are you timing his questions, Grant? We got to time his questions.
Time his questions. Cut.
Yeah. Listen, I think the void is strong in two ways, and most people do marketing and sales in two ways. They either do, as you said, Bernard, have a sales arm and a marketing arm, and very rarely do they talk to each other. But they always blame each other. So the salesperson says, I don't get enough leads, where actually conversion is the key. And the marketing person says, listen, we're doing everything we can. We're doing everything we need to be doing, but he's not selling anything or she's not selling anything. So they blame each other. So to fix that, then we do something called a planning for good days. So it's reverse engineering the sales process, because most people just have a fingers crossed approach. We'll work as hard as we can for as long as we can, and we hope we get our target at the end. But that planning for good days is reverse engineering that. So starting with that target, a few simple conversion KPIs, going backwards in your planning at the start of a month or a financial year or a quarter, and going, all right, how many leads do we need or contacts do we need to guarantee achieving target if we're doing this conversion? So when they do that, then they can go to the marketing team and go, this is our goal as an organization. This is what we're both working towards. From a sales business development perspective, this has how many contacts or leads we need. So for you guys, this is now what your outcome is. Because I find marketing is not measured very often, where this allows them to be on the same page. And the formula is this many leads with this amount of conversions. So they're both accountable for it. So then the sales team is, yes, accountable for their own lead generation as well as the conversion. But then the marketing team is providing qualified leads at a specific number. So that puts them back on the same page. The other part that businesses do is then, if they don't do that, they usually have the same person doing marketing and sales.
Yes.
And I find that is really challenging, because the marketing creative mind is very different from the sales productivity hitting targets mind. And it's often not the same person. It's not the same person. You can chop and change. Okay, I'm going to do half a day of lead generation or phone calling, and then half a day of marketing. That's pretty tough. So I think that is the other challenge, is if you got the one person doing it, unless they've got a great way of moving from that creative to that structural, then that can be doomed as well. But I think the best, if the opportunity is there, is to have the two different people doing it, or the two different groups, but to have that planning for good days, which aligns them together, having one best way and one goal. And of course, the other things, of course, that bring those teams together is having a culture that they're working towards, an outcome that is a joint outcome, a mission or a vision that is agreed upon by both parties. So, of course, those things help to align them as well.
Sure. I'm always fascinated with that businesses always put sales and marketing into the same bundle portfolio, because it doesn't really make logical sense. But at the end of the day, they're having the same expectations. And this is where I use this word on every show. It's a little bit of edutainment. You have to educate, you have to entertain with the view to grab market share. But one of the things that I look at the most is, how best do you separate the sales and marketing when people or businesses are quite small?
Yeah, so it's more about conversion is the key.
Yeah.
Conversion is the key. So sales skills and communication skills and being able to create value and being able to have a customer choose to buy rather than feeling like they've been pushed into it is the key. So if you have high skills, then it takes the demand off lead generation. You can have all the leads in the world, but if you can't convert them, then it's not going to generate a business income. And then, you talk about culture and how people are perceived and those sorts of things. Then if we create that sales best practice where we diagnose a problem, we prescribe a solution, we are using emotional selling, not logical selling, as you were saying, Bernard. A lot of people are just doing logical selling. It's got to be emotional. People buy emotionally and justify it logically. So if we're selling logically, we call it red brain, then cheapest wins.
Yeah.
And if cheapest wins, if people take customers, let's just pretend it's my business, from me, Bernard takes customers from me because he's cheaper. Guess what? If I'm selling red brain logically, the only way I can get him back is to go cheaper again.
Cheaper than that. And it's a race to the bottom.
Everyone goes out of business. But if I can communicate with value, if I can connect my products and service to the compelling reason, and that means an emotions that customers want to move towards or emotions customers want to move away from, firstly, they've felt like they've chosen to buy. They've felt like they've been understood. They haven't just been pushed something down their throat, which means they stay for longer. They feel good about their purchases. They tell other people about it. And now I don't need to be cheaper because I have value. So people will pay more, they'll travel further to get to me, etc. If I can create that value, even if, in these pretend businesses we're talking about, Bernard and I have the same product, if I can create value and connect to those to an emotion rather than just the logic of what I have, then that fixes all of those problems.
I have a bit of a mantra in my business, and it may just be more relevant in service businesses because you do have multiple people touch points in it. But my mantra is kind of that everybody is essentially part of the sales process. So just because the client has said, "Hey, Bernard, really like you, let's go ahead," then if Vincent in my team or John in my team picks it up and they're not able to deliver on a promise or create the rapport or keep lines of communication, which is, I think, a really important thing. I always talk about keeping the ball in the client's court. If we're always on the front foot and the ball is always in the client's court, the client's always like, wow, these guys are on it. They're on top of it. They're always on top of it. They're always that little step in front of me rather than behind me. And because the last thing you want, especially in a service business, is to be chased. Once you're getting chased, all of a sudden, that's like you're in the bad books already, So that's kind of my mantra. And what I've noticed is that the more that we do that, the more on the front foot, before we even get an opportunity to produce something or deliver it to market, they're already referring us to the next person because they're like, these people are always up front. They're always there, And it's that kind of like that trust factor,
Yep, too true.
So, Bernard, let Darren do the final word there because he didn't get a final word.
Yeah, I know he didn't get a final word in.
That's all right. It's your show. Yeah. I absolutely agree. And the other part is, that those softer skills like communication skills, like understanding your customer's behavioral style, and going back to that earlier question about what are their interests and how do we build rapport. So if all of your team understand that, not just you as the person that they reached out to, it takes the pressure off you to have all the communication. But then if you have to send them something, a reminder, an invoice, you can tailor your team, if they understand their behavioral style, for instance, can tailor that communication to what the client likes to be receiving information. So for the ones that are really detailed, well, guess what? The email that includes the invoice has lots of detail to it. For the person that is just the bubbly socialite, then the conversation around the invoice is, hey, what are you up to on the weekend? I know we're in lockdown, but listen, what are you gonna watch on Netflix?
Yeah.
Etc. So they can tailor. So in your CRM or whatever communication you have on that person's file, you say, if you understand behavioral styles, you can put in the exact type of behavior, or you can just say, this person's a fun-loving, fast-talking, they don't like to stick to the same topic for long periods of time. This is how we need to communicate to this person. Versus this person is very serious. They love the facts. They love the plan. They love the detail. This is how we need to communicate to people or to this person. So it means that they're receiving things, even like an invoice, which they probably don't want to receive. They are, this person, I'm getting this information in a way that I like to receive it. So the invoice is less pressurized. And but then, of course, with that rapport side of it, you know, if you know they're a footy fan and their team's playing tonight, well, throw that in the invoice email as well.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, you know, good luck with Manly tonight, or whatever the case might be. You know what I mean? It's showing them, what does everyone else do? They just send an invoice. This needs to be paid in 30 days. See you later. What's the feeling? So every question needs to be, how am I making my customer feel when I do this action? Whether it's a phone call, whether it's a text, whether it's an email, whether it's sending an invoice. How am I making it feel with the communication around it? It's not the invoice itself, it's the communication around it.
I'm going to be talking to my business partner after this about adding some more fields in our CRM. That's a brilliant idea. I love it. I love it. It's got so much character to it. I like it. I really like it. That was a great way to wrap up that last question.
Absolutely.
We should get a guest to do it every now and then, I think. It's a new format to the show. Wrap up your own question. Awesome. Well, that does bring us to the end of the show, Darren. That was an absolute pleasure. I think there were so many gold nuggets that were dropped in that, and I can't wait to kind of bring out the article and so that we can share the information further. Obviously, this is streamed on YouTube and Facebook, and we'll tag, and we'll also share the URL to Impact Training's site. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it's late-ish on a Friday. You've only got 10 more minutes, then you can wait. What's the time over there? Is it the same timeline as last night?
Yes, it is.
Oh, thank God. Okay, cool. It's only
we're half an hour behind you, so we're half
hour.
Oh,
okay. Well,
plenty of time.
You still got 40 minutes. Too bad. So sad.
Off day today.
Yeah. Well, it was an absolute pleasure. As always, thank you everybody for joining us on the show. Please like, share, comment, and as always, if you have guests that you think might be a great fit for the show, or you have some subject matters that you would like us to unbundle, especially if they're a little bit unconventional. We want to be challenged. We want to be out there researching just like you are, learning and exploring. And you know, as Grant always says, it has to be edutaining. I've never said it. I know, I've never said it in a different way, right? Edutaining. Yes.
Edutaining.
Awesome. Thank you, Grant. Thank you, Darren, both for joining us. And
thank you for joining us. Absolutely. I thoroughly love the idea of bringing value, being a good listener, and creating relationships. Tremendous. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure, mate. We'll catch you guys all soon, and have a great Friday.
Don't forget to like and share.